that core participants are limited to government agencies, and it's understandable that they need to be represented, and campaigners essentially for lockdowns and associated restrictions. Now, sometimes they're under the cover of representing COVID victims, for example, and there are some charitable organisations and medical organisations, but all of them, it seems to me, agree with the narrative that a lockdown was necessary, and many, if not most of them, are putting forward a narrative that it didn't go far enough. Now, on the what, it's fine for them to be represented. And of course, the inquiry needs to consider everything widely, and it needs to consider all aspects and all opinions within reason. But what is extraordinary is that Lady Hallett has refused to give core participant status to anyone who is challenging that narrative, including in a particular instance last year. Us for Them has been specifically set up to represent children and to put the case that they were damaged by the lockdown unnecessarily and disproportionately. And secondly, the hospitality industry, which also has suffered hugely, amongst other industries, from the lockdown. And Hugh Osmond, who headed that potential application, makes the point well that actually affects many, many young people, disproportionately young people who work in that industry and are affected by the shutdown of social life in 2020 and 2021. So those are key problems. And as we've seen the inquiry progress, we've also seen that there has been a consistent failure to challenge both the government ministers and advisors, and also experts who are contributing towards the, as I say, unprecedented measures. For example, Neil Ferguson and Professor Edmonds, whose models were heavily influential in determining the course of the reaction to the pandemic. In respect to the COVID inquiry, the inquiry has asked for feedback from members of the public in a system called Every Story Matters, and you'll see the link at the bottom of this. That is your opportunity, they say, to help the UK COVID inquiry understand your experience of the pandemic. But that must also include your experience of their reaction to the pandemic, which might not be related to your infection with COVID, but might well be related to your losing your job, or you're losing your opportunity to go to school, or the serious problems that you may have had as a result of that, including not being able to visit your loved ones in a care home, and so on. So I would strongly encourage everyone to contribute to that. And so we don't have a one-sided view that the only problem was COVID and not the reaction to COVID.